Okay, part two. So we set up a, database in Excel or spreadsheet model for our demand function. So just a quick recap. Remember, we have our y variable or dependent variable or estimated variable, which is our quantity demand of x. And then we've identified a number of variables that influence either quantity demand or demand, and we have listed them. And we've added the constant and a residual. Remember, the constant are basically just to indicate if all our variables are zero, what would be the demand for that? It could be either zero or something else. Um, there's always a demand for something, whether you have income or no income, whether you have this or that, there's always a demand for something. And obviously, the residual covers everything that is not captured for these variables. So that is our variables that we've identified to influence our product X, whatever product X may be, or service. Don't make a distinction between the two. Then we've got our variables. I just did a abbreviation of each because you don't want to write them out, they're a bit long. So we just abbreviate them. Then obviously the next important part is to understand the nature of the relations, theoretical relationship between the two. Some of them are straightforward, some of them are a little bit more tricky and a little bit more ambiguous, like income. Income for normal good would be positive, but obviously for an inferior good would be negative. Luxury could be positive or negative. Taste, etc. So some of them are very obvious. Some of them are a little bit more ambiguous, and it all depends on the context. What variable? What is the product that we're talking about? Is it bread? Is it milk? Is it water? Is it haircuts? Is it cars? Is it houses? Cell phones? Is it nail polish? Whatever the case might be. So to understand the exact nature of the relationship, we'll have to look at the detail of the products. What are we talking about? Then each of these variables will have a coefficient. And the coefficient basically is the size of the relationship. What is the nature of the relationship? For example, here, 0.5. So for every one increase in the price of product, quantity will decrease by a half. So this is by how much will these variables influence the quantity of demand if these variables change by one or increase or decrease by one. And that is the size, the size of the relationship. So that's important. It is the sign, which is the nature of the relationship, and the value of the coefficient, which is the size of the relationship. Okay, and these coefficients is thumb suck at the moment, is given at the moment, but in reality we can go and test them, or we can estimate them for all sorts of surveys, econometric techniques, and so forth and so forth. Then we have the value of these variables. What is the price of X? Not what is the size relationship, what is the actual value of X? What is the value of price of substitute 1? What is the value of the price? So meaning what is own price? So if we talk, for example, Coke, this is the price of Coke. This would be the price of milk, for example. This could be substitute milk, yeah. This could be the price of juice. This could be the price, what's a complement of Coke. Brandy could be that. It could be chips, which is complements to Coke, Coke and chips, Coke and a brandy, for example. So these are prices. How where do you get it? You walk in the shop and you're going to get it. So to get these prices are not that difficult. We know what the signs would be. The only thing is the size of the coefficients. We don't know that. So we have to estimate them, or we have to guess them. Income, we roughly know what people's income is. Taste is a little bit more tricky. We have to go and do a survey, get your customers, ask them within a scale to 1 to 5, how do you prefer the Coke? What is your preference? What is your taste for Coke? Okay, we can do the same for preferences. Population, we have understanding what the population is that drink Coke. Marketing, we can ask if you're the company, then obviously you know how much marketing you spent on Coke. I know Coke spent a lot of marketing on, or a lot of money on marketing. Seasons, we know that in summer they're going to drink more, etc., etc. So you'll set up a dummy variable for that. So although some of these seem a little bit difficult to get, it's entirely possible to get those numbers. Okay, so once we've got this, then I've got a modified where I combine the sign and the value of the variable. So I get a modified variable. So the 5 and the sign is minus 5. The variable value plus the sign is the plus 3 here. Okay, so once we have the modified variables, okay, so that's setting up our data set. Okay, so that's setting up our data set. Now we've got our data set sorted, set up, etc., etc. So I hope that still makes sense. There's our demand function. Okay, there's our demand function where we just list the variables that we've identified, and then from our demand function we calculate our demand equation, which is now the coefficients and the variables. Okay, so it's the coefficients, the signs, and the variables. There's our demand function. Okay, so we just add these two things, those two, in our function to get our equation. Once we've got our equation, we can go and calculate. Use this equation, we can go and calculate our demand. Remember, it's an alpha, so it's a 50 plus minus beta, so that's minus beta. Beta is 5, so that is minus 5, minus 0.5 times 5. I've just added the values there, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. So we plug our variables into our equation, and voila, we get a demand of 27. We get a demand of 27. So straightforward, nothing to it. Okay, so whether we put our minus signs in front of the coefficients or whether we put our minus signs in front of the actual variables, that's neither here and there. They all should work to the same number. So that's okay. So now we've got our basic model in place. We've got our basic data in place. We've got our basic structure in place. Now we can do all sorts of things. And this is now why I want to do this in Excel, because now it becomes I don't say easy, but it becomes relative straightforward to play around with. Okay, because all the functions are built in, all the equations are built in, etc., etc. So it saves you a lot of time and effort. So what I've done is I've created another column here which says scenario variables. Scenario variables. So basically what I'm going to say is if I change the price of product X, if it increased from 5 to 6 rand or from 5 to 9 rand, what's going to happen? What will be the impact? If we change income, if income increases. So we can do what we call elasticities. So I've created a second place here where it says the quantity demand of product X, quantity demand of product X in terms of our scenario demand. So in this case, I do exactly the same as previously. I've got the coefficient multiplied not by the modified variables, but by the scenario variables. Okay, so I created a second cell here where I'm going to calculate the scenario quantity demand, not the base demand. This is the base demand. I'm going to calculate the scenario demand. In this case, they're exactly the same, 27, because the two values, the variable value is exactly the same. Okay, so let's quickly give an example. So let's say our price increases. Remember, these are absolute numbers. Okay, so we've put the minus, so we keep the minus, but the price actually increased, let's say, to 8 rand. Okay, So let's say the price increased to 8 Rand, from 5 Rand to 8 Rand. Remember, ignore the minuses are just the sign. So the price increased from 5 Rand. So let's quickly just change, put in here variable change. Variable change. As we go along, we're going to say it's that minus that. So the variable changes by 3 Rand. Okay, ignore the, let's do an absolute value. It changes to 3 Rand. Okay, so at the moment, all these are 0. So it increases by 3 Rand. Okay, it increases by 3 Rand. Okay, now what happens is if the price increased by 3 Rand, from 5 Rand to 8 Rand, ceteris paribus, means all these other variables stay the same. Nothing changes. Demand will decrease from 27 to 26. Very small, 1 unit decrease. So price increased by 3 Rand. Quantity demand decreased by 1 Rand. So what is the elasticity? 0.09. So it's very inelastic. Remember, above 1 elastic, unit elastic 1, and less than 1 inelastic. Remember, we ignore the sign. The sign doesn't say 0.0 minus 0. The sign is indicator of the direction of the nature of this one here again. We could actually say, should we do abs? Absolute. Absolute just means get the absolute number, ignore the sign. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, sign is something else. Okay. Let me just pull it down. There we go. So that would be that. Okay, so let's go back, make it minus 5 again. Okay, cool. So demand's exactly the same. Let's, for argument's sake, say the price of the substitute. Okay, remember we do them one by one. We're not going to do them all because we apply the ceteris paribus statement. So we assume that all these other things will stay the same. So you cannot change multiple variables here because then you're not going to know which one causes which one and what is the exact size. How much is because of this, or how much is because of that variable. So that's why we do them one by one, i.e. ceteris paribus. Okay, so let's, for example, say, okay, let's keep own prices the same. But let's say this substitute price increase from 3 Rand to 9 Rand. Major shock, increases to 9 Rand, i.e. price increased by 6. Okay, price increased by 6. Demand only increases by 2. And therefore, the cross price, remember here we say cross price elasticity, 0.03. So this increase of 6 Rand, from 3 Rand to 9 Rand, this increase from 6 Rand actually only causes demand to increase by 2. If the price of the substitute. Why? Because of this coefficient. So if we take the 6 and we multiply it by the coefficient, what are we going to get? We're going to get 1.8, which is basically that rounded. Rounded gives you 2. So you see where we're going with this. Okay, so this 1.8 as a percentage are 0.03. So the price increased by 6. Okay, so remember the price of the substitute, this one here. The price of the substitute increased by 6 Rand, from 3 Rand to 9 Rand. Quantity demand, however, only increases by 2, from 27 to 29. Remember, the price of a substitute increase, the quantity demand for that substitute will decrease, and the demand for your product will increase because they are alternatives. They are you can swap them. You don't have to buy the one, you can buy the other one. Chicken or beef, etc., etc. So you can clearly see that it is very, very little. Now, let's change this coefficient. Let's change the importance of this coefficient. Okay. So how important is this substitute in terms of product X? Is it vaguely important, or is it very, very important? Chicken and beef, for example, or let's say pepper and beef. Pepper and beef, pepper would be much less relative to the demand for beef than chicken, for example. So, and this is exactly what this sign is. So let's make that sign, let's make it 2. Have a look now. 12. 12. Now all of a sudden, the coefficient is much, much more. I need to multiply by 100 here as well. Let's say multiply by 100. So I'm going to do this one here, put that one there, times 100, 18. Okay, or we can take, yeah, shall we leave the 100 or not? Yeah, we should. Let's make it 0,3 again. You see, we have to take it out, 0.03. Okay, so leave it there. If we make that 2, you'll see now all of a sudden it's a little bit different. The price increased by 6, quantity demand increased by 12. Now the elasticity is very, very different. So this variable here is actually very, very important. This coefficient is a size of the relationship. The smaller the coefficient is, the more inelastic this, the higher the coefficient. So let's make that 8. Look now, if the price increase from 3 to 9, I am at 6 rand, then quantity demand will increase by 48. Look at where the elasticity stands now. Very, very different. And so forth, and so forth, and so forth. So, very, very important. Very, very important that this coefficient here. So what we had, 0,3. So let's delete it again. Let's have a look. Okay, so we reset them, so it becomes 3 again. So nothing. So let's look at income. Income increased to 120. Then demand stays exactly the same. Why again? Because this coefficient is so small. So this thing has to increase by a significant amount. Let's make that 0.5. Let's have a look now. Now it increased by 76 to 86, 0.61. So now it increased by 10. So if the income increased by 20, okay, demand increased by 10. And so we can play around with this. As I said, let's leave it at 0. Yeah, again, the sector is 0.5. Let's make it 0.5. Okay. Yeah, let's leave it 0.5, etc. Let's make it back to 100. And we've done the same for all of them. So there is the elasticity calculations, percentage change in quantum demand over percentage change in X, or percentage change in quantum demand over percentage change in income, elasticity of demand, income, elasticity of demand, taste. So for each of these variables, we can now generate an elasticity formula and calculate those elasticities. The default is obviously 0. I can make it 0. We can say there if error, we can say the error, if error, let's go and if error 0. What did I do now? Sorry, my apologies. You can say here, if error, number, what did I do now? Error, if error, why is it not giving me an option function that gives me the whole time ABS? I don't want ABS. Error, I think I just put it in the wrong place. I don't like error, if error. Ah, man. Come on. If error, there we go. If error, and make it 0. There we go. If error is 0. Okay, I don't like that diff thingamajiggs. We'll rather use something else. So we'll just make it 0. You can make it the question mark, whatever the case might be. And that's the nice thing about Excel, you can play around with it. So let's quickly look at it now. So let's say price decrease. So let's say the price of the substitute was 10 Rand. Let's take a decrease to 5. Okay, so the price, okay, so now actually we, where was it now? What did I do now? I forgot, sorry. There we go. The price decreased by 5. So the price decreases by 5. Here now we need the minus. We've got the absolute. We should put the absolute only by the negatives. So we take the absolute out here. Take the absolute out here. And we're going to take the absolute out there where the minuses are because we want the minus. And we take the absolute out. Sorry, we take the absolute. So we put complements. The absolute is in. Why is there -8? Oh yeah, and then yeah, so yeah. So we actually with the positives we have to put in negatives. We must do the absolutes, and the positives we must put absolutes. And we'll do that in another stage so that it shows. So for example, if the price increased to 20. It's a positive. Okay, so here the price decreased from 10 Rand to 5 Rand, so the price decreased by 5. Price decreased by 5 Rand, then the demand decreases from 76 to 72, 0.1 elasticity. Because, remember, it's positive sign. It's a positive sign. So as the price decrease, then quantity demand will also decrease because it's a positive sign. You see how nice and how, I wouldn't say easy, but relatively easy it is if we do this in Excel. You preset up your data set, and then you set up your equations, and then it's simply just, you change a variable here, we change a variable, so let's give that a color as well. So that's the value there. So this values we can change. This is fixed. So let's make it blue, values that we don't change. So this is, we don't change this value. We don't change that value. That's the base value. That is the difference value. So do we change this value? And we change, let's do this color. And we change those two values. Okay, so let's, the values that we do change, let's say put that in green, that we know. Okay. And then, as I said, if we have our elasticities, then we can simply just calculate it. Okay, so let's go back there 10. You'll see the change is 0, and therefore there's no change in quantity demand. No change in quantity demand, nothing. So that's called our base value or base scenario. And then we have our scenarios. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So what else can we do? We can obviously from here generate a demand and supply equation, a demand and supply graph or demand graph. And that's what we're going to do in our next video. So say, okay, given this, let's generate a demand equation for our base, scenario, this one here, and then for a base, and then for our scenario. Okay, so that's what we're going to do in the next video tutorial, is going to do a demand and supply. So basically what we want to do is generate, I'll just make it big, generate our demand function. equation. Now to do that, we have to obviously, sorry, when I get that, to do that, we have to go to our basic, let's just quickly do this. So I just want to do that, put that in here. So to do that, we have to go to our basic demand function, which says that demand is only a function of price. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to collapse all of this into our demand equation, this one here. Okay, so we're going to give them all variables, or all values, and all these values will then be captured in our alpha, because we're going to calculate them. So what we're going to be left is this formula here. Okay, so we're going to calculate it there. And then this is what we're then going to use to generate our demand graph. Because remember, our demand graph consists of a y-axis and a x-axis. Only two-dimensional, so only two variables, y variable and the x variable. So we cannot put this equation on a normal demand graph. Because there is, what did we say, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 11 variables. And we cannot put 11 variables. We cannot put 11 variables on a simple two-dimensional graph. Because remember, here's quantity and there is only price. So we only need price and we only need quantity. We don't need all these things. Okay. So what we have to do is all these other variables, seasons, marketing, population, preferences, taste, income, price of complements, price of substitutes, all of those things have to be excluded. We have to reduce this equation. So we're going to take our equation there and we're going to reduce it. We're going to reduce it to this. Okay. Let me just take that out. I don't like it because sometimes it slows down your spreadsheet and the whole thing collapses. Okay, so to get from this, from this to this, we have to convert these values into, or capture these values in our constant. So the price of substitute 1, the price of substitute 2, price of comp, etc., those values will be captured in the constant. So what we have left is quantity demand is equal to a constant, whatever the constant is, minus beta, meaning minus 0.5 price X. And obviously we're going to have price X as 5 Rand. Okay. So where the constant at this moment is 50, these values here, those ones there, that will capture it in the constant. Okay. And then once we've got the constant, so the constant is not going to be 50, the constant is going to be whatever, minus 0.5 price X. And now we can go and calculate the quantity demand for different prices. And from there, so we draw a time series, and from there, we can go and generate the graph. And we can do the same for supply as well, eventually, so that we have supply and demand graphs. So let's call this one here demand. Okay, demand. And then from there, we're going to do demand, then we're going to do supply, then we're going to do equilibrium, and then we're going to do floors, ceilings, etc., etc. Okay, so stand by. We will continue with this. So I hope this is starting to make sense. I hope this gives you an idea. and something that you can work on. It's a little bit more practical. It gives you a visual impact of the demand function. It gives you a visual impact um, of working with demand functions, the visual impact of all these variables under demand, be able to calculate elasticities, etc., etc. That's the beauty of Excel. Once you've got this capture, yeah, you just continue to build and expand it, and you learn, demand and all its facets. You learn via doing this in Excel, and that's the beauty of the whole thing. You learn while you're playing, and it allows you to manipulate, change, etc., etc. So with that said, let's park there for now. Let's park there for now. And I said the next video, we're going to work on, or we're going to generate the demand curve. Demand curve. I'll show you how that works. Okay. Okay. Let's park there for now. Let's park there for now. Okay. With that said, I'll see you on the other side.